Alright guys, so gonna make a quick video here while I'm on my way to work tonight. Another wet, rainy night here in South Carolina. And obviously, I'm not in the studio, I'm doing this while I'm driving, but I had to say this pretty quick. I didn't have time to get in my room and do the video that I wanted to do with the typical background, so that, it's not gonna be the same quality, but I needed to get this out there. It was a lot to try to put out on Twitter. So I said, you know what, I'll just make a video and I'll upload it this way. But obviously the big thing everyone's talking about right now is what's going on. The Taliban taking over Kabul in Afghanistan, or Kabul, however you say it. They've taken over, and a lot of people are trying to give Biden shit right now. So mainstream media is trying to unload on Biden with both barrels. I don't care if it's right wing or corporate left wing or whatever. Everyone's saying that this is going to go down as the big black eye of the Biden presidency, and he's completely shit the bed on this whole deal. Now 20 years of hard work have gone down the drain, and 2.2 trillion, actually over 6 trillion by the time all the interest and all's done. It's all gone to waste. It's all gone to pot, basically, right? So now apparently there are even some people right now, and I like some of these people, so I'm not saying this to some of these people to quote unquote demonize or per se personally attack them, but they're looking at this as, because they don't like Biden, that Biden withdrew, but he withdrew very poorly, let's say, okay? So here's my problem with that way of thinking, okay? They said that Biden didn't withdraw with a plan, all right? Now, Trump himself has come out and tried to attack Biden and saying, Biden should resign in shame. So here's the problem. Okay, if Biden didn't withdraw with a plan, what plan would Trump have had when he withdrew? Because first of all, Biden pushed the withdrawal back even farther than what Trump's withdrawal was going to be. Okay, and a lot of people are criticizing Biden because he sent more troops back in. Like, he withdrew 2,500 and now he's looking at 5,000 to 7,000. To my understanding, I think those troops are only going back to finish evacuating the rest of the people, and they're there basically to make sure everyone gets out and that none of the Americans who haven't been evacuated yet get attacked. So I think for so far, at least, like, what they're basically saying is, these people are there to make sure that the Americans and all the people who are getting out and get out okay. Now, who knows? Because the Taliban completely takes over, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow, some way, they still don't get their way, and they're like, well, while you 5,000 to 7,000 are already there, and everything went to hell in a handbasket, maybe we need to put you back to use. I mean, it could very well happen. I'm not going to say really one way or the other on that, just because, it's already been a 20-year war, who the hell knows. But so far, seems like Biden at least stands firmly behind the decision to do a withdrawal. But again, you got Trump attacking him, saying he had no plan and this ended poorly. So again, I got to pose the question here. What would Donald Trump's plan have been? Okay? To the people that say that there was no plan, I'm sorry, but I got to disagree. And here's why I'm going to disagree, okay? We spent billions and billions of dollars. If I'm not mistaken, I think we spent almost $90 billion, okay, if I'm not mistaken, training an Afghan military so that they could try and defend themselves, okay? Now, to put that into context for you, we've been there, again, for 20 damn years. In 20 years' time, you mean to tell me you can't train and arm a proper military? So, we trained an Afghan military, spent our money to train this military, and just to put this in context for you, even Biden used this as his defense as to why it was not inevitable that the Taliban was going to take Afghanistan. Okay? Turns out, looked like all the neocons were right. But the problem is, they're only right because the military that we trained to defend themselves ran like a bunch of damn chickens. They ran like cowards. That's exactly what I'm going to call them. They ran like complete cowards, in my opinion, okay? Here's another reason why I say that. They were trained, armed, and equipped by the United States military, okay? Again, we put more money into quote-unquote defense spending than anyone else, okay? We beat out the next several countries in the world combined, and most of them are our allies. We've got the biggest bloated military in the world. We just trained this Afghan military, and they were armed not only with our stuff, not only armed with our training, but 300,000 strong. 300,000 people are who made up the Afghan military. They were trained in, I believe, like an Air Force program. I mean, they were pretty well equipped. And who were they battling? A 75,000 strong guerrilla army known as the Taliban. Okay? You mean to tell me that an army of 300,000 well-armed, well-equipped people could not hold off a guerrilla army of about 75,000 people any better than that? You know, I've heard a few different reasons why it went south. My take on it is pretty much, in my opinion, I'm thinking it went south just because I don't think they truly had the will to fight. You got to consider, Afghanistan is basically a fake country that we just recreated and tried to prop up. And a lot of people are turning toward the people who want to escape. I heard people talking about like, oh, look, they were trying to grab a hold of airplanes as they were taking off and things like that, right? And yeah, you've got footage of that. On the other side, there's footage making its rounds on social media where people in the town were greeting and welcoming the Taliban when they arrived. Okay? So put that into perspective for you for a second, okay? If the people there were so happy that we're there to give them freedom, come back to that in a minute, why are they greeting the guerrilla army and cheering them on as they enter the town? Now, I know some people are going to say, well, the men might not have it that bad, but the women are going to be the one who suffer the most, and the culture, and they might be living under Sharia law, and they won't be able to dress, and this and that. Okay, look, here's where the beautiful thing about being a sovereign country comes in, okay? And this is what people need to get through their thick heads. We have a standard that we like to live right here in the United States. If we want to dress a certain way, we'll dress a certain way, whether people like it or not, okay? A lot of people still probably have their opinions on it, but opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, okay? Another country does not have to live the way we live. And what you might find is some in that country might want to live the way that we live, but maybe not all of them do. That different cultures have different beliefs and different priorities, okay? We were a country and a people who were built on the idea of living free, breaking free from a ruling class, not being governed by any one ideology or whatever, right? Like that, these are the kind of things we were supposed to be a nation built on. But a country based in an area of the world where religion still really dictates everything might not feel the same way. Okay? And the reason I say that, for anyone who's like, oh, how dare you? Everyone wants to live free. Okay. Anyone who really wants freedom would be willing to fight and die to have freedom. If you need evidence of that, the American Revolution, the Cuban Revolution, I mean, let's just look at revolutions throughout history. When people were sick and tired of what they were living under, and they wanted a change, or they wanted freedom, or whatever, they were willing to risk life and limb. They didn't, like, can you imagine if during the American Revolution, the quote-unquote patriots, as we referred to them as, the founding fathers, you know, the Continental Army, got armed the way that the Afghan army got armed, and then ran like cowards, we would still probably be part of the United Kingdom today. Great Britain would own our ass if our forefathers had acted that way. But they didn't. Okay? And the evidence is because, you know, they wanted freedom. You know, that famous line, give me liberty or give me death, right? Okay. That's where their mentality was. Clearly it's not there for this Afghan army. Clearly even the president didn't want to hang around. Like, okay, here's something else. If you really gave a rat's ass about your country and you were any kind of a fighter and you didn't want to see this go back to the Taliban, why'd you run like a little bitch? I mean, ain't you ever heard the old adage, a good captain goes down with his ship? You know, say what the hell you want about people like Gaddafi or, you know, Saddam or what the hell ever. I mean, they were terrible people. They didn't, like, completely run from their country. Now, they found Saddam in a bunker, okay, or whatever. But, you know, I mean, even Gaddafi was like, I'm not leaving. And then they, of course, he wound up leaving, not of his own free will and accord. He wound up leaving office. But, you know, it's just the point. If this guy really was trying to stand for something, why did he just take off and leave? Why was he not there pressuring the Afghan military? Keep fighting. We've got to do this to make... See, something doesn't add up there. Something doesn't add up there. Tells me they didn't take it that seriously. Tells me they're like, well, we don't really want to fight, so we will, you know, run, tuck tail and run, and then everybody else here, seems like there's a lot of people here who don't seem to mind the idea of living under the Taliban anyway. Again, the BBC reported on that. There's footage of it going around right now. So, well, I guess we'll just let it be. So again, if you say that there wasn't a plan, then I want to know exactly what your plan, like what you think the plan does. Don't just say there wasn't a plan. I want to know what you think the plan should be. Because after billions of dollars to train an Afghan army, arm them to the teeth, and for them to just tuck tail and run, which, by the way, the same thing happened with Iraq. Remember that. The same shit was happening in Iraq, okay? And Trump himself is the one that stood on the debate stage and talked about the fact that how they ran, how the Iraqi army just basically ran, and then ISIS got a hold of all of our weaponry. Well, the Taliban did the same shit. So tell me something. Why are these armies that we're training such chicken shits? And can you blame us for the armies being chicken shits? Like, no, dude, this is your country. This is your battle. This is your freedom. You're either willing to fight for the shit or you're not. And when you outnumber the army, potentially outgun the army, and they, you know, put up a fight that arguably is borderline on the side of, like, the Alamo. Like, now keep in mind, we didn't win at the Alamo, but we held off Santa Anna's army for how fucking long? Okay, so like, when you hear about a small army doing such an amount with such small numbers, you got to think of things like the Alamo, you think of things like the 300, and now we're hearing the American Revolution, maybe even the Cuban Revolution or whatever, right? Even though I don't think it was army versus army. It was more or less a civil dispute at that point. But you got an Afghan army, an Afghan military, 300,000 strong, armed with American equipment, can't defeat or at least hold off a 75,000 strong guerrilla army called the Taliban. That's not actively being, really, funded by a major nation. Like, they might be receiving help and funding from somewhere, but it's not like they got someone the equivalent of the United States who are giving them arms and training, okay? And yet the people who we do prop up can't do a better job than that. So again, don't just say there wasn't a plan. Like, there was a plan. If you don't think the plan was good enough, then I'm curious what you think the plan should be. Because the only other plan I heard floated was to just keep our happy asses in Afghanistan until, the end of time comes, till Gabriel's trumpet blows. I mean, that's the plan. That's the neocon plan. Nobody else seemed to have one. And obviously time didn't seem to make a difference because, again, Trump was going to withdraw even quicker. So staying longer, they still didn't last. As my grandfather once said, they still didn't last or have a snowball's chance in hell, basically, right? Like, they were still toppled and defeated in no time flat. So if you don't think that the plan was good, I'm curious what you think an effective plan would have been. If you're upset about the amount of money that was spent all this time, only for it to crumple right back to the Taliban, don't be upset at the withdrawal. Be upset at the two stupid ass ignorant parties who put us there and kept us there and spent all that fucking money. Like, that's something you need to wisen up to at this point. Okay? Who made this fucking mess? Who shit the bed all to try to build empires and get their hands on minerals and shit, which the Chinese got their hands on because they actually tried to indebt the country, not by bombing their ass into a gratefulness. No, they have said, we will come to your country and we'll build all the shit that the United States blew up and you'll just owe us for it. Like, they at least had the brains to go about building empire in a smart way. Whereas we went around like some old fucking cavemen, dropping bombs, having pissing contests just to show who's dominant, to try to get our hands on minerals. That's why I've said before, man, the Chinese are playing a chess game here. We're playing checkers in a chess game, okay? It's getting us the fucking hind end of nothing, as I heard an old guy in the South say one time. We're getting the ass end of nothing here, okay? So again, if you're upset, blame the two parties who spent all that fucking money, got shit to show for it. The country's right back in the hands of the Taliban, and we spent $2.2 trillion. And be upset because understand, if we hadn't spent, and again, really $6 trillion by the time they say it's all said and done, by the time interest kicks in and the money's all paid back. But understand, with that kind of money, our infrastructure, we're arguing over $3.5 trillion one right now for infrastructure. What could our infrastructure have looked like if all that money had been spent on infrastructure at home? They say only like, what, $20-30 billion could end homelessness? We could have ended homelessness in the United States. And I don't want to hear the whole, these people didn't pick themselves up by their bootstraps. Some people do make that choice. I know some that live in New Orleans. They refer to themselves as gutter punks, and they do choose to live homeless. But there's a lot of homeless veterans who fought, by the way, in these fucking wars and then come home and wind up homeless that are living out there on the streets that we could have put in an actual home and given their life back to them after they served our country, only to come home like the troops from the Vietnam era. Literally, because a lot of people were comparing this to Vietnam. The troops came home from Vietnam and basically got spit on. The troops from Iraq and Afghanistan didn't necessarily come home and get literally spit on, but the system spit, pissed, and shit all fucking over them by not even helping them stay on their own 2 feet, by letting them wind up in the street. I mean, that's fucking bullshit. All that money could have been spent on something way fucking better, more useful at home, but instead, it didn't get spent here. It got spent into another country, and we got not a fucking thing accomplished. Because now that we left, the army we trained had 20 years to train, spent billions of dollars to train, ran like a bunch of fucking cowards, didn't put up a fight, didn't keep up a good fight, and now the country is right back in the hands of the fucking Taliban. So if you got a problem with what's happened, stop blaming pulling out of a war. Stop blaming not having a plan, because there was a plan in place. And understand the two-party system is what made this shit show. It is what made this clusterfuck. And as long as you continue to vote for these sacks of shit, you are going to get the same results until you wisen up and say, we're not going to vote for Democrats and Republicans anymore. I know some people don't think that that's enough. Some people think that there's got to be other things done, and I agree at this point. Yeah, there's other things we could be doing too. But stop showing these fuckers that you're just going to go out and vote for the lesser of two evils every 2, 4, or 6 years because you're afraid if the Republican doesn't win, oh my God, I've got to deal with one of these woke-ass, dumb-fuck Democrats. Or, oh my God, if I don't go out and vote for the Democrat, I've got to deal with the Wall Street bought-off neocon Republican. Like, no, fuck. What you don't understand are they both literally suck. They've propped this war up. They've pumped ass loads of fucking money into this war. And again, this is what we wind up showing for it when we do what we should have done a long time ago and withdraw from this damn thing. Okay? I mean, this is the result of people like Bush and Cheney, Obama, Biden, and hell, even Trump talked about it, but he kept our asses there as long as he did. He said he wanted to withdraw, and now that one took place, he's bitching about it, blaming Biden, saying Biden should resign in disgrace. Keep in mind, wasn't it Trump and Pompeo who released the head of the Taliban because they were trying to negotiate with them, right? So, no, it's fucking hypocritical. It's fucking bullshit. This was gonna wind up happening because I don't think the people there had the will to fight in the first fucking place. If they did, you can't convince me that an army of 300,000 armed with our shit couldn't put up a better fight than what they did. Anybody who really wanted a freedom and took it seriously would have been willing to really fight and die for that damn freedom. And those people didn't. They ran, and now all the shit that they got, the Taliban has their hands on now. It's their military equipment now. There's no, we want to come back and fight. Like, yeah, the people could try to uprise. How much harder is it going to be to do that now than it was when you actually had the guns, the helicopters, the artillery, the men, the training? Like, you had, if you wanted it, there was your chance, and poof, you let it fucking go. It went up in smoke, okay? So, again, it's not our job to try to force a freedom down the throats of people if they don't fucking want it. And clearly, they must not have wanted it that bad because they weren't willing to fight and die for it the way people have in the past who really wanted revolution. And they didn't just have to start from scratch for their revolution. They had 20 years of us fucking fighting it for them, and then they get 300,000 men armed and trained, and this is what the fuck they do as soon as we leave. So, no, fuck that. It's not our problem. It's not our affair. If you got a problem with how things ended, blame the Democrats and Republicans who started this whole fucking shit show and wasted anywhere from $2 to $6.5 trillion fucking dollars in that shit show. You blame those sacks of shit. Stop blaming the guy who, like him or not, finally did the right fucking thing and started drawing the troops down. And again, maybe we won't end up in a full-blown withdrawal. People are pointing toward the fact there's like going to be 5,000 to 7,000 troops back. From my understanding, I'll give them at least the benefit of the doubt for now. Even though I don't like Biden, I've never really cared for Biden, but I will give credit where credit is due. And I do feel that odds are he does want to do a withdrawal. And so unless something really changes his mind, I think the withdrawal is coming. And so my understanding are those troops are just there to make sure that all the U.S. people get out and get out safe. And so as long as that happens, I might not like anything else Biden does while he's in office, but I will give him credit on that. If he winds up going back into war, I will be criticizing the hell out of him on that. And for everyone else who doesn't like the way things turned out, I'm going to refer to my previous comments on that. Blame the two-party system and stop voting for them if you really don't like it, because they're the ones responsible for it. This blood is on their hands.